with it. So I'd love to know just, Rob, like, how would you describe Tyrice Knight's just role for this Seahawks team if you were going to say, hey, this is his role? And here's the thing, it might be a bad question because it might constantly be changing for what the Seahawks need each week.
I was quite disappointed that Tyrice Knight and DeMarcus Lawrence didn't complete the hat trick, actually. No, I think it's great, to see him come back. He's obviously had a weird last few months, a difficult last few months. And to see him come back and have an impact like that, he was tremendous. And it's great to see. I mean, I don't know how much of an opportunity he's going to get this weekend because Ernest Jones tweeting gifs that suggest that he might be playing against his old team this weekend. So we'll have to see on that. But it was great. And I think overall, when you look at the defense, there are quite a lot of parallels to the team that won the Super Bowl last year. They had dynamic interior pressure, but not necessarily the big name edge rushers in Philadelphia last year. Unless you want to call Josh Sweat and Brandon Graham, those kind of, they seem quite similar to the guys the Seahawks have in a way. It's not Nick Bosa, is it? It's not Myles Garrett. It's not Max Crosby. They had a dynamic rookie playing. It was a safety defensive back hybrid who's obviously an incredibly different physical looking player to Nick Manwari, but they had that. They had a young safety who was in his first year who was a playmaker, and the Seahawks have got that. And the offense, they've got explosive playmakers, they've got dynamism, they've got a quarterback who you're probably not going to list with the Allens and the Mahomes and the Lamars of the world, but he's capable. I don't know. Maybe I'm talking myself into the Super Bowl thing again and thinking that the Seahawks could be this year's Eagles.
Hey, it doesn't feel like this group is far off from that. Brian just said that that's a Super Bowl winning unit, that D-line. And I feel like if we're going to say that and start saying the phrase Super Bowl, which is pretty awesome when you think about it, we got to name this defense. I'm seeing some in the chat, Mob Squad, like this, like something, we brought it out weeks ago. Hey, should we name it? I feel like it's time for the 12s to name this defense. Why not get ahead of the game, right? Sometimes it's the fans who really start something and that the team can rally behind, right? Like, how cool would that be? But I do got to bring up just the crazy stat that only one other NFL player has had 2 fumble recoveries to a touchdown ever. DeMarcus Lawrence carrying that now as one of the only players to do that. So Mike, how would you just equate that possibility in a fact?
Man, that was really nuts to see. That was crazy. Shout out to I hope they can split defensive player of the week. It'll probably go to DeMarcus because he scored, which feels kind of unfair to Tyrice because it's like, man, he did a lot of the heavy lifting too. So I feel like they should figure something out there. The fact that those were 2 different blitzes too just kind of speaks to the psycho nature of Mike Macdonald too. Is like I make everything look so dope that I can just create so much chaos, and it's the same 2 guys making it shake again. That was also crazy. Speaking of stats, the Seahawks hadn't forced a fumble on defense before that game, and then before the Peely fumble forced on special teams, they hadn't forced one at all officially. Technically, CJ Stroud fumbled, but it was a very convoluted. You go look at the play-by-play of that; it's just like the longest thing ever. It looks like lawyer speak, but yeah, no, that was just kind of unreal. That felt more like having just written a book about the old team. That felt like looking back at when they beat the Cardinals a bazillion to nothing before, or the Bills game, a couple of those Niners games when they were you're just like, oh my goodness, these guys are everywhere. It really does feel like they got 12 dudes on the field. Like that was pretty crazy. Like shout out to Mike Macdonald, those guys, and shout out to Tyrice Knight. And this wasn't necessarily part of the question, but I do think it was kind of funny that I think it was on his radio show, he got asked like, yeah, how do you coach? You coach that up like to do what Tyrice Knight did? And Mike was like, no, we actually coach you to not do that at all. And like to put your hand up like that. Like
he's so honest. He's just going to tell us no matter what. He's so honest. You trust him.
Yeah. And I appreciate that because I mean his logic makes perfect sense. If you miss and you hit the guy in the head, then 15 yards, you just negated whatever good stuff happened. So it's like, Tyrice just did what you're not supposed to do twice, and it worked. And Mike Macdonald's like, you know what? We don't coach that, but hey, it worked. It was
maybe
like
they should.
It was like the one time maybe that it was like, that was actually a really bad process, and I don't care because you guys know Mike's really huge process guy, which I respect. That time it's like, process was awful. But whatever. I don't care because we scored 2 touchdowns. That also made that pretty cool. And again, I was just happy for Tyrice, to be able to get back in the lineup, make a big play, have his podium moment. Yeah, that was super cool. That was probably one of the cooler moments of the season with those back-to-back plays.
So, Mike, for your sequel, I have an idea. Just throwing it out there. I think you just start chapter 1 off, first page, a play-by-play of both of those fumble recoveries to touchdowns back to back. Like, say what people were saying in the press box, get some fan noise in there. Like, you're a creative writer, you'll be able to do it. But I think that would be extremely engaging.
Yeah, I mean, if they go to Santa Clara, like we are doing a soft launch of a prediction here, it feels like. I'll probably have a commemorative book out by not Valentine's Day, probably by like training camp of the next season, 2026. So hopefully they get there. I think this Rams game, which we'll talk about a little later, that at least for me, I'm kind of waiting on that. I need to see how that goes, and then it's time to book your tickets to Santa Clara.
First, have to highlight our sponsor for this season, the Sleeper app. So check out this quick video.
Sleeper is the #1 fantasy sports app. It pays to know sports. Pick more or less on top players. Your first pick is on us, so start winning now. Play in Texas, Georgia, Minnesota, and 27 more states. Pick anytime across all sports, pregame or live. Over 10 million players are already on Sleeper. Make your picks count. Score up to 1,000 times your cash. Join today. Get up to $100 credit using the code HMA. Call your shot on Sleeper. Download now.
Yeah, we're so thankful to have the Sleeper app with us this season. So if you're into sports as much as we are here on the Seahawks Collective, definitely check it out because it offers it all: news alerts, live sports and scores, stats, real-time chats with others. Gives you the ability to win real money as well. So make sure you check out the #1 sports app today and try it out for yourself. Use promo code HMA and you'll get up to $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. Currently operational in over 25 states. Check out the Sleeper app today. We are so excited to have them on the show because it's an app that really does it all. And like the Seahawks, they're going to need all of themselves to get this win over their divisional opponent in LA, in the Rams. Let's move on to the offense.
You guys are too cautious. I got to just say this, AB. You're too cautious. Convince me that this isn't a Super Bowl team. Like, what's your evidence that this is not a Super Bowl?
I think they just need to see the Rams. I think they just want to see the Rams. I think a lot of Seahawks fans are holding their breath before they see this Rams game. I don't know. What do you guys think?
My thing would just be able to preserve your leads a little bit more comfortably, and not even necessarily because if you're up like 2 touchdowns on like Philly in a divisional game, you're probably just better than them. But even if we talked about me and Chris Kiddo doing a pie with, we were talking about this like a scenario where you're up 3, you're up 6, and you just like 5 minutes left or something like that, and you just need to hold on to the ball, like just bleed some clock, even if it's just a field goal drive, like. Obviously, it's very good in that scenario. Say you're up 6 on Detroit, right, at home in divisional round. Yeah, is it great if Jackson catches a 50-yard bomb on your next play and you go up 13? Of course, but if there's still 5.5 minutes left, this game is still very real, which is why you see a lot of teams when they're about to score, guys slide or they don't, go into the end zone because clock is sometimes more important. And the ability to do that, I think, can come back to bite you, which is why my second favorite moment of the game was their 13-play scoring drive that took almost 8 minutes. But you got to be able to do that, I think, because we see it in the playoffs all the time where no lead is safe. Teams come back very quickly. Time management matters. Being able to bleed clock matters. And I think a lot of the teams that are better, that have the same record or as the Seahawks can all, I feel a little bit more confident in their ability to do that. The Seahawks have a pretty bad run game.
My answer to Brian's question would be that I am simply scarred thanks to 40 years of being a sports fan. And I have learned over the years to never get your hopes up because then you'll never be disappointed.
I think that's totally fair. And my hopes aren't up. I just am calling it as I see it. And I think the thing that and I'll stop on this, AB. I know we got other stuff to cover, but the thing that is missing from the conversation I hear from Seahawks fans about this topic is it always comes to what the Seahawks, like, to Mike's point, they're not very good when they're up by 3 touchdowns. They end up making some stupid mistakes. Like, now go and talk to me about the rest of the flaws of the rest of the teams in the NFL. You really think that the Packers or the Eagles or the Bucks or like go on down the line that they don't have a meaningful flaw that they're trying to overcome? And I would put their flaws much above where I see the Seahawks flaws right now. Doesn't mean the Seahawks are perfect. Doesn't mean they're going to win every game. But by pretty much any measure you look at the quality of a football team, the Seahawks are, if not the best football team in the NFL through 10 weeks, they're one of the top 2 or 3. And so at that point, like, what are we doing? We just like superstitious because everyone outside this fan base, I think, can look at this team and say, yeah, that's like one of the best teams in football right now.
Everything you say is right, Brian. I mean, the fact that the DVOA is as good as it is it's not just at the top, but the fact that it's comparably, excellent is a reassuring sign for that. And you're absolutely correct. And it is a strange season, for a 5-4 team to be the bookies' favourites to win the Super Bowl. That never happens at this stage in the season. So there's an opportunity there. And if the Seahawks beat the Rams this weekend, the next 7 days after that game, the Seahawks will dominate the discourse internationally. It will be all Seahawks, and we'll be riding the crest of a wave, focusing on the team that we cover and follow.
I do want to just talk about some of those, offensive mistakes, because I think that is what's leading to some of this like dissension and like where are we really as a team? Because you look back at that week 1 game against the 49ers and that was in a way self-inflicted, right? That loss. And then you look at what happened in this game against the Cardinals, and the Seahawks practically just handed the Cardinals the first 2 scores, right? They tied up with a bow. Here you go. We're going to give you some offense to generate. And a note that I had earlier just about, yeah, it's great when your defense makes a red zone stop, but like maybe that's what did you say, Rob? It's an allergy for our team. Maybe that's not what we want to do. Maybe we'll wait to have our defensive stops in other areas. But I think some of those offensive, like self-inflicted problems is what's causing maybe some of that confusion. But just when you look back at some of those offensive turnovers and just really how it became not as clean football as you'd probably hope coming into the second half, what was the most controllable turnover, do you think, Mike?
That's a good question. So what do we have? Sam botched the snap exchange with Olu. What did he throw? Did he throw a pick? Yeah, he did throw a pick. Got hit off a guy's helmet. AJ Barner's helmet. And what was the other one? Sam fumbled. Oh, he fumbled again. Jesus. Probably that last one, I would say. I watched the whole game on film. I'm not really sure why on the sack fumble he didn't just throw the ball to Shaheed. Like, he looks to his right, Jax is covered, Shaheed's open in the flat. The play's over if you just throw it there. Instead, tries to work back across. Elijah's open, but by then Josh Sweat has his hand on the ball, and it's over. Sam does have, I believe, the second highest turnover rate in the league among quarterbacks, right behind Tua, actually right ahead of Geno. Which the aborted snaps, whether it's the center's fault or whatever, those tend to go to the quarterback. So take that for whatever it is. And every quarterback has balls that get batted in the air, go off somebody. I mean, the footballs are shaped weird. So where it bounces, that's why turnovers are just random. So like you can excuse some and not some others. I think we're like collectively not huge PFF people on here. At least I know me and Rob aren't. But that's one of the turnover worthy plays is one that I can get down with because they're just trying to contextualize turnovers. I think if there are people outside of Seattle who are like, oh man, Seahawks ain't win no Super Bowl, Sam Darnold's, the clock's going to strike 12 on him in January. I haven't seen as much of that, but anyone who does feel that way, I don't know if I agree. I'm kind of in the middle, but I'm not inclined to argue. I guess like Sam's not. He's not playing poorly, and not all of these decisions have been like the worst thing in the world. The pick, for example, AJ loses his block really bad. Like he gets walked back into the quarterback's lap, and the ball hits the guy's helmet. He's trying to throw in rhythm. Does that mean that if they play the Lions in January, Sam's going to melt down? No, not really. So like I'm not as worried about that being an issue. I think if anything, them having to throw the ball as often as they do, as their means of like generating explosives and getting them in maintaining the ball because they can't run it to do those things consistently, at least. That's probably the bigger issue. Like you're probably not going to turn it over if you can run it. You know, Ken, I don't think has ever lost a fumble. You know, Zach never